Good morning. This is Anthony Dallmann-Jones, and this is part 2 on the addiction series. And the second one, the first one was called Addiction, and part 2 is the process addiction to abuse. So I can erase this now, right? Process addiction to abuse. Remember that addiction comes in two forms: substance abuse and process abuse. So this is like doing, it has an ing on it, any process. Cleaning, gambling, things like that, worshiping. Now there's nothing wrong with worshiping, but we're talking about when it's an addiction. So we have process addictions and substance addictions, such as food or drugs, tobacco, etc. And the addiction is about not being able to say no to some process or some substance that is basically eating away at some facet of your life and having life-damaging consequences. And you have a lot of facets of life: physical life, social life, family life, etc., etc. So we're talking about a process addiction to abuse is a rather new and revelational, if there is such a word, a concept. Now, first of all, I'm going to explain while I'm erasing this that theory, when I was in college, if any professor that said the word theory, I immediately had a narcoleptic episode. I remember saying to Jerry Burry, in an upperclassman in philosophy class, I said, well, when he starts talking about something practical, wake me up. Well, philosophy is all about theory, okay? But what I did not realize is that theory is what creates life. And that accounts, the theory accounts for why people with the same view, the same things, have totally different experiences with life, because their theories are different. So the person who gets up in the morning with the theory that life is great is going to have a different day than a person that drags himself out of bed and goes, oh, blankety blank, another blanking day, and drags themselves through it, even though the two might be, equally healthy, physically. They have two different theories, and they make them come true, don't they? So that's why we can come out of a movie theater and some people go, oh, that was the greatest movie, and other people go, that was a waste of 2 hours of my life. They have different theories on what a great movie is. So theories are never right or wrong. They're just applicable or inapplicable. Any theory is, quote, right in a certain situation. I've never been stumped, and I've asked my graduate students at Marian University in the Dow program to try to stump me, give me a theory that can't be right in some circumstance. So, but a good theory is applicable more often than a bad theory. So no theory is right or wrong. It's just applicable or not applicable. So my theory on a process addiction to abuse is right in some circumstances and wrong in other situations. But what we're really talking about, instead of right or wrong, is applicable or inapplicable. Okay. So the process addiction to abuse means that a person must be involved with abuse. Okay? They just are not, the world is not right unless they are being abused or they're dishing out abuse. Now, don't forget, neglect is a form of abuse. Some people think neglect is more formidable than abuse, because abuse, you can see, neglect is the absence of something. So we won't get into that right now. Maybe that's another video on neglect. But let's just say that a person can't say no. Remember, a definition of addiction: can't say no to something, and they have to be involved with abuse. Why could that possibly happen? Why would anybody want to be addicted to abuse? Well, why is not the question so much as noticing that it is. And if you would sit, and this is uncomfortable, but if you would sit and reflect on how many people you know that are addicted to something, some process, some product, Um, it's not going to be a happy moment, but maybe a necessary one. So don't dwell on it. Don't get addicted to that. Okay. So here's what happens when a person comes out of a dysfunctional family, an abusive or neglectful family. You must remember that these are your growing years where everything is forming. Your theory on life is forming. Eric Erickson talked about trust versus mistrust right at the beginning. That's a theory. Don't go to sleep because it means reality in this case. Does a child in those initial years trust the world or not? Is the world a friendly place or is it a threatening place, a scary place, an abusive place, or a neglectful place? And that is right in your root. That's in your cellar of your foundation of your interacting with the world. Is it a quote good place or a bad place? And everything grows out of that. The way you think, the way you see things, your contexts of things. What is an apple? It's something to eat. It's a home for a worm. It's an object to hit people with. It's Newton's part of Newton's theory of gravity, etc. Those are all different contexts on apple. Same apple. Same apple. A missile, tasty, a pie, gravity, wormy, green, red, sweet, sour. Those are all contexts. So when you grow up with a theory of mistrust on the world, everything falls into the context measured against how awful is it? We know you can't trust anything, but how much can't you trust this person? How much can't you trust that person? So everything's measured against trust versus mistrust. And that becomes the foundation of your life. And that's done at a very early age. So don't forget this. What you live with, you learn. What you learn, you practice. What you practice, you become. So we're really talking about that thing called a personality. What you live with, you learn. What you learn, you practice. What you practice, you become. So by doing these things repetitively, seeing things the same way, doing things the same way over and over and over again, you think that's the way the world is. That becomes your theory or set of theories on how the world is, and that's how you proceed with life. It's how you think, it's the kind of things you get involved with, etc. So a process addiction to abuse, at an early age, if a child is abused, neglected, their odds of growing up and being addicted to some form of abuse, neglect, either doing it or receiving it, putting themselves in situations, matching up with people who will definitely abuse them, neglect them in some form or another. It's a must. The person must. As a woman told me once in one of my support groups, she said, healthy men are invisible to me. I said, what do you mean? She said, healthy men are invisible to me. She says, but boy, across the room I can see some addict and just take him home and clean him up and just, help him get healthy. And she says, and then, it all falls apart. And then I run out and after years of getting rid of this other one and find another one just like him. She said, but healthy men are like, transparent. I see right through them. So that was very brilliant insight, So she's talking about her process addiction to abuse. She's looking for people who will guarantee that she gets involved with abuse. What we live with, we learn. What we learn, we practice. What we practice, we become. Breaking the cycle of addiction to abuse is why we have a thing called therapy. And most all therapy is about this very thing. So when I talk about this, the people go, oh, this is really a wild or unusual theory. To me, it is just so obvious, and I think it will become that way to you too, if you start looking through, that context. So is the theory applicable or non-applicable? The process addiction to abuse. I hate this phrase. It's only 2 words, but it aggravates me. But unfortunately, it's also true. The 2 words are, it depends. But that doesn't make it unreal. Every situation has to be, looked at as if it was the only one at the moment. Because in another place, the situation looks the same, it can have a whole different context. It could be dangerous in one place and entertaining in another. So it depends. But a process addiction to abuse guarantees that you're going to seek out or invite abuse or neglect to you. And that's why we have therapy. Not because people are insane, but they can be in such pain they look insane or act insane, but they're not insane. They're hurting. They have mental health issues, if you want to say that. Their life is the quality of their life is being hampered, and they need some help removing some things from their life or adding some things to their life to fulfill their life and have a healthy life. And the more of the facets of your life that are healthy, the more healthy you are overall. I hope this is helpful. So this is part 2 in the series Addiction. And the next one we're going to talk about, in part 3, codependency. Ooh, that's a good one. And let me tell you something. It's going to make you a little bit uncomfortable. Because chances are you have a touch of codependency. Some of us have more than a touch. So, Anthony Dallmann-Jones signing off on part 2, the series on addiction. If you want to talk to me, my email is asdjones@gmail.com. Thanks. Make a great day.